waters. Notice here in Ezekiel, he describes here on the top of Mount Zion in the temple, in verse 1, he describes waters flowing out from under the altar in the temple, just a shallow little stream from under the golden altar of incense, immediately before the unveiled Holy of Holies where Christ sits on his throne. People in the temple can just walk right through it. It just wets the bottoms of their sandals, doesn't interfere with anything at all. But the funny thing about this little stream is, as you see, if you scan through verses 1 through 6, is that the farther it flows, the bigger it grows, without any other streams contributing to it. In verses 1 through 6, it just miraculously grows like the fishes and loaves as it flows eastward until it becomes a deep river. And then it pours over the edge of the mountaintop into the Kidron Valley below, at the very point where the Valley of Kidron and the Valley of Jehoshaphat meet together. The Valley of Jehoshaphat that divides the two parts of Mount Olives, they meet together. And the Kidron flows southward around the city and to the west, and the waters that spill that way end up in the Mediterranean, just as Zechariah 14:8 said, half of them toward the former sea. But look in Ezekiel 47:8. It focuses on the other half that flows through the Valley of Jehoshaphat straight eastward toward the Hinder Sea, the Dead Sea. And here's why Zechariah had called them living waters, because these waters that flow from the throne of God actually resurrect the Dead Sea. How do you like that? These healing waters resurrect the Dead Sea. The end of verse 8 says that they go down into the desert and go into the sea, which being brought forth into the sea, the waters shall be healed. And the next several verses describe the abundance of life in the waters. And in verse 7, he says that there are trees all over both sides of this river. And the end of verse 9 says that everything shall live whither the river cometh. And this is where Isaiah 35:1 says that the desert shall blossom as the rose during the millennial kingdom of Christ. So there are going to be some pretty seismic changes that God brings into this world as the millennium begins.